Hey everybody, today we're doing a lab. We are going to determine how much water is in a kernel of popcorn. So we have our materials here. We have unpopped popcorn kernels. We have an evaporation dish to contain our kernels. This is really good for using in heat. And we also have little strips of aluminum that I'll cover those evap dishes with. That way the popcorn kernels don't go everywhere. We have a gas stove, and on that stove we have a little screen so that our evap dish doesn't fall through the little grate. We also have some heating tongs so that I don't burn my fingers or anything like that, safety goggles, and we have some vegetable oil to help distribute the heat as we cook our kernels. So to start, we're going to find the mass of everything that we're using. So I'm going to put my evap dish on the scale. It registers as 38.57 grams. Next I'm going to add some popcorn kernels. I'm going to do quite a few here. Oh, looks like it's actually 5.58. And let's see, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kernels to start. Okay? So the mass of both the evap dish and the kernels is 39.50 grams together. Next I'm going to add a few drops of oil just to help distribute the heat as I cook the kernels, make sure that they don't burn. Okay. And with the oil, the kernels, and the evap dish, our total mass is 39.70 grams. Okay. Now I've covered our dish in foil, again, just to contain those kernels, and I'm going to put this on the stove. And while the stove is on, I'm going to kind of move this around. That, again, keeps the kernels from getting scorched and helps to distribute our heat nice and evenly so that we can pop those kernels. Here, let's start to pop. Okay. Alright, sounds like all 5 pops. I'm going to take this off the heat now. Oil, you can kind of see some steam hopefully coming off of there. This is what our little popcorns look like. We didn't burn them too badly, which is awesome. I'm going to let these sit here and cool before taking the second end measurement. While our first trial is cooling, we're going to go ahead and get started with our second trial. So my second evap dish weighs about 47.22 grams. I'm again going to add 5 kernels. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the kernels and the evap dish together weigh 48.22 grams. And next I'm going to add my oil. Just a few drops. Again, helps to distribute the heat and keep those kernels from just scorching and turning black. Okay, so now the evap dish, the kernels, and the oil all together weigh 48.54 grams. We have moved our second sample to the stove. If we were doing this in the lab, we would be using Bunsen burners, but here we're just using a gas stove because it's what I got. And chemistry is just like cooking anyway, you just aren't allowed to lick the spoon. So it's fun. Anyone can do it. And here it's starting to pop. Should be getting close. See one more pop, maybe. There we go. So I'm going to take this off the heat now. Our second sample is off the stove, and hopefully you can see that steam rising. Remember, steam is just water vapor, so that is the water escaping our sample. Our first sample is still a little bit warm, so I'm going to let it cool down for a little bit more before I weigh trial has cooled, so I'm going to go ahead and weigh it again and see what our final mass is. All the oil is still remaining in there, along with the weight of the evap dish. So our final mass of oil, the popcorn, and the evap dish is 39.57 grams. While our second trial is going, I'm going to go ahead and do a third trial. The more trials we can do, the better, to make us more confident in our results. So I'm again going to weigh the evap dish. There is some remaining oil there, so it's going to have a little bit different mass than before. It's 38.61 grams. I'm going to add 5 popcorn kernels. That one's like a dud. I'm going to throw that out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the mass of the evap dish and the popcorn kernels is 39.52. And I'm going to add some cooking oil once more. And just enough to kind of cover up those kernels. The mass for trial 3 with the oil, the kernels, and the evap dish is 39.73 grams. Okay, here's trial number 3 heating up. Starting to pop. I think I need one more to pop. There we go, and I will take this off the heat. Here's our third trial. I'm going to let it cool off. Not too much steam coming off of this one. Looks like most of it has already escaped. But our second trial feels cool enough to go ahead and get our final weight. So trial number 2's final weight of the evap dish, the oil, and the remaining popcorn as 48.36 grams. Trial number 3 has cooled, so we're going to take the final mass. Remember, there's oil in this, there's the remaining popcorn, and then there's the evap dish. That total mass comes out to be 39.56 grams. We've now collected all the data we need to determine the percent of water that makes up your average popcorn kernel. So let's talk about the information you might need to determine the percent of water in a popcorn kernel. So remember, we define percent as the part that we're interested in over our whole times 100. Okay, so that's how we find the percent of anything, whether it's the percent of water in popcorn or whether it's the percent that you get on an assignment in class. In this case, the part that we're interested in is the mass of the water divided by the whole, which in this case is the mass of the kernels. If we divide by the mass by the water, divide by the mass of the kernels, and multiply by 100%, we will find the percent of water in the kernels. So from the information that we gathered in lab, we need to figure out, well, what mass of water do we lose? We're making the assumption that the only thing that we lost when we heat up the kernels is water, because that water heats up, turns to gas, and expands, making popcorn explode into the fluffy white goodness. So all that water that turns into gas evaporates into the air and out of our sample. The mass of the kernels, we have to figure out what it is by subtracting the mass of the evap dish from the mass of the evap dish and the kernels. So we have the evap dish mass, we measured that on the scale, and we had the mass of the evap dish plus kernels when I added the kernels. So through subtraction, we should be able to determine what the mass of just the kernels were. Okay, so that's the information that we need to solve the question of how much water makes up popcorn.